sit-up. So we're using a bench here, and we're gonna go through a sit-up with our heels up on the bench for the main reason being you can't use your hip flexor. So a lot of times people will go to a sit-up. You'll often see them go to the end of a bench and they'll kind of hook their toes into the end of the bench, and they'll go sit-ups where they sit all the way up and kind of bring their elbows to their knees. I don't really like that version of a sit-up because of the anatomy of our hip flexors and where they cross our hip joint and come up into our low back. So if I put my feet up onto the bench, I can cue driving my heels into the bench, which activate my hamstrings, which makes it a lot harder to really fire my hip flexors when I go to do a sit-up, which allows me to put a little bit more load into my abdomen. So when you go onto the bench, you're gonna try to get your knees bent to close to 90, okay? And then your hips are gonna be flexed close to 90 as well. And then I like to point my toes and push my heels into the bench just enough to kind of tilt my tailbone off the ground here, but I'm able to still keep my low back on the ground. And then there's a couple different variations. You can go with your arms crossed, which you saw on the intro part of the video, to where I'm coming into a sit-up and I'm trying to get my elbows toward my thighs without losing the tension in my hamstring. Or I can put my hands on the ground and kind of slide my hands up like I'm doing more of a crunch versus a sit-up. So it's gonna be a little bit different depending on your strength levels. Maybe if you start out with a sit-up and as you get tired, you go more toward a crunch, but you're trying to get as much of your upper back off the ground as possible, but you're trying to do it like one vertebrae at a time. So I'm segmentally crunching up, trying to get my elbows toward my thighs, and then lowering back down. You'll notice that if you keep the tension into your hamstrings and you have that segmental crunch, you'll feel way more activation through the abdominals.